spinning, broken rule. Hound dog howling, bullfrog croaking. Everything is broken.
Hi, I'm Matt Allen, and welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. With us today is Lary Holland. Lary is the host and producer of Get Your Justice Live, an interactive talk show that focuses on judiciary reform with a particular emphasis on changing family courts. Lary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First off, will you talk about Get Your Justice Live, how you started it and why you started it?
Well, Get Your Justice Live was kind of something that I never anticipated as being an online internet radio program in the beginning. I kind of used podcasting in the beginning to inform county employees of what the real policies were behind family courts, with an emphasis on Title 4D, Title 4E, and welfare policies across the United States. And I would kind of use it as a form of psychological warfare, as a way for me to reach out and talk to a lot of people, not in a live format, but rather record a podcast, send it out to all of the employees in a particular demographic, and basically encourage them that their jobs were at risk for as long as they kept using these policies that were harming families.
And what did you think those policies were? What were the policies that were harming families?
Well, there was an emphasis really for courts to arrive at one conclusion, whether it was a child custody case or a divorce case. In fact, the conclusion was that a child support order was to be created in nearly every one of those cases. And it seemed to me like a system that wasn't really focusing on the kids at all. It was focusing on administrative processes to arrive parties, at some type of monetary exchange that the courts benefited from.
What's your mission with Get Your Justice Live now? What do you hope that people get out of it?
Well, I have really two missions. First of all, I don't solely focus on family court anymore, because one of the things I've noticed is that the politicians that are out there don't really want to listen to divorce reform that much, because for the most part, we've got a situation where there's a plaintiff and defendant with competing interests. There's always a winner and a loser, and for the most part, their votes cancel out. So I've kind of expanded it a little bit more to focus on politicians that kind of want to stave off government intrusion. But the real purpose of the program is to educate citizens, educate grassroots, so that they know what it is that they need to do to take action, whether it's against, judicial, activism, whether it's, any form of local political activism that's going to kind of push back against government policies that allow them to enter into our homes, whether it's our family, our privacy, our property. We need to educate our voter base and educate the constituencies that are out there before we can expect to see real solid reforms. Or if we do make reforms, in order for the citizenry to keep those reforms in place so that they're not just reversed. As
it pertains to family courts, what are you looking to change? I know you focus a lot on parental alienation syndrome on your show. Is that one of the big issues you're looking to sort of reform?
Actually, I think that parental alienation is probably one of the smaller niche issues that just seems to be one of the most emotional. Probably one of the largest reforms that would help the family court system would be to remove the majority of cases off the adversarial docket. And, that could be achieved in a couple of different ways with collaborative law. We could use mediation or any of the alternate dispute resolutions that are out there. And the other thing that I'm really looking for here is for it to stop being about the money. In fact, I kind of equate child support to two different philosophies. One, when a child support order is placed over, somebody that is in the middle of a case, we've got a situation to where they haven't been found guilty of neglect, abuse, and they haven't been found to be unfit, and they are likely already providing support in their own home for their children, but yet suddenly they find themselves in a position to have to produce income for another household even before a case is settled. So it becomes too much about the money, and then there's not any real resolution because there's a reward to keep the adversarial case up. Hey, I'm getting paid money, so I need to keep the conflict going so that the courts keep awarding me more money. And that is something that is equated to almost like an indentured servitude state. And I think that a lot of fathers identify with that, more so than mothers, for the most case when you're looking at that particular argument. The other thing is that I view child support as a conservatorship being placed over a party in a case without being found mentally incompetent to manage their own affairs. Mm-hmm. So even before any crime or determination or anything has been committed, you are now being penalized as being a parent and having to basically pay money in order to have visitation. And I know that the courts say, well, these two issues are, independent of each other, but when you don't pay your child support, you find yourself confined to a jail cell, which kind of truncates your parenting time.
Right. So how have we gotten to this point in the judicial system? Has this evolved over time, or is this just always the way it's been, and now we're trying to change it?
It's evolved over time. The more welfare reform that's happening under Title 4A of the Social Security Act, the more reforms that are happening at local communities that are using government positions to create jobs, everybody's justifying their existence to expand government, and as a result, we've become a more subjective society. Well, if it sounds good, let's go ahead and do it, rather than if it's constitutional, let's go ahead and do it. And I think that that's taken a lot of time to get to that level. It's not something that occurred overnight. In fact, in the early 80s, we started seeing some early reforms with child support enforcement. There was really no emphasis on reforming family law outside of child support-related matters. By the time we got up to 1996, we had a situation to where, the welfare reform, acts were put into place that said, look, we need to crack down on people that aren't paying for their kids. Well, it sounded good, but there was no real data to justify the change in policy. Okay. In fact, all we've done now is create a whole bunch of felons and a whole bunch of misdemeanors, parents that are out there over civil debt that really they had no ability to pay in the first place.
So you've talked about judicial activism. What else can we do? How can we make these changes happen?
Well, this has to be a political process. I know every person that enters into a family court case thinks that their case is going to make all the difference. I even thought that in my own personal circumstances. Right. I was a person of a lot of resources, and I was like, how dare a court system, take that approach against me? I raised my kids from the beginning. Now all of a sudden that's being interfered with. And I have to convince people that the judicial process is not a means to an end. That is only going to protect your personal circumstance if you're really good or you have the best attorneys that are going to advocate for you, in a manner that's going to really just take it all the way to the end. And that's going to cost you, no less than $70,000, more likely about $160,000 in order to get that type of representation. And that's no lie. When we're looking at a situation to where what reform is going to be the best, we need to put politicians that are in place that don't believe that government can solve all of our personal issues and bring it back to a personal responsibility that says, hey, these two parents, they loved each other once. They are now required to go into this program that is not going to be a duel to the death. Over their kids. Right. And when I say duel to the death, I really mean that. We're seeing a huge increase in the amount of family court-related violence. In fact, if anybody Googles the following words, family court is deadly business, you are assured of picking up no less than 3 or 4 different versions of an article I've been doing since 2007. And it shows all of the child custody and divorce-related homicides, suicides, or murder-suicide combinations, and also murder for hires. People are killing each other over these family court cases, so we have to implement a form of conflict resolution that doesn't drive people crazy to want to kill each other.
Thank you for your work. We appreciate it. Good luck. Again, that's Lary Holland. His program is called Get Your Justice Live. To find out more about Lary and his interactive talk show, you can visit LaryHolland.com or GetYourJusticeLive.com. And a reminder to our viewers that the full version of this interview will be available as a podcast by clicking on the podcast link on the left-hand side of our homepage. That'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com, and we'll see you next time.